In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create keyframe animations in Photoshop. And we're going to start by making a new file. So blue button up here. Yours might say create or create new. And we're gonna go to the presets for photo up here. And we're gonna select default Photoshop size. If you don't see this for any reason, then just type in 7 by 5 make sure it's in inches first, and then 7 width, 5 height. And we're going to name this with our initials underscore window because I'm going to be doing a window. And we're going to click create. And so the goal for this is we're going to be creating a scene or a setting that is not moving. So you're going to make a window and decorate either a bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, like a sunroom, some type of space with a window, or it can be multiple windows. So whatever it is that you choose to draw, we're going to draw on a layer. I'm going to start with a window first, that way I can draw around it. So I'm going to go here to my rectangle tool. If you don't see this tool, it might be hiding behind something else like a line tool or an ellipse. So just make sure you right click. These are all the different types of shapes. So we want the rectangle tool. And I'm going to be creating a window. So I'm just going to draw my rectangle. And I want mine kind of narrow. You can do yours any shape, really. And then I know I want, okay, the thickness, which is the stroke, right here, if you want it thicker or thinner, that's where you control it. I think it was fine where it was at. And I do want a black outline, so that's good. And then if you want to make sure it's centered, then make sure that you have your rulers open. So Command R brings out your ruler. And then just bring from the left ruler, you're going to click and drag to the center, and it'll lock in. So you'll notice it's at 3.5, which is half of 7. Whoops, it moved. So Command Z, and let's try that again, right there. So now I can switch to my move tool and move my window or my rectangle, whoops, so that it is centered right there. And then here we're going to double click and I'm going to name this window. I'm also going to lock this layer so that I don't accidentally draw or move it while I'm drawing the setting. Now the next part, this is where you get to draw and decorate. I am using a drawing tablet, so I highly recommend that you also use the drawing tablet because it makes everything a lot simpler to draw. If for any reason you just don't think you can pull off all the drawing, you can bring in existing photos in Photoshop, although that's probably going to take longer because you're going to have to search for the photos you want, bring them in, and delete the background. But if that's the route you want to go, totally fine. It might look a little strange because when we start adding the keyframes to animate the stuff in the window, there might be some kind of disconnect. So I would just draw it if I were you, no matter your drawing level. I'm going to be using the brush tool, and up here you can change your brush type. So if you click on this arrow, you'll see all these different brushes. If I was going to draw curtains and maybe I wanted a textured look, here's that's kind of thin. I can make my brush bigger by clicking on the brackets next to the letter P. So here's a textured versus smooth. A quick tip, if you want to make or draw a straight line, when you're drawing, hold shift on your keyboard. So if I hold shift, click and drag. Ooh, that was weird. So hold shift. That draws a straight line, whether it's up or down. So I'm going to click, hold shift. And I think it also does it at an angle. Oh, never mind, it doesn't. Here, it does. Okay. So I'm just clicking. So click, hold shift, click. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, so I'm gonna start drawing my, I'm gonna start with shelves. So I'm gonna switch to like a brown. And yeah, so this part is where you get to draw your designs. I'm gonna be drawing my shelves here, so I'm gonna be skipping forward so that you can see the animation portion of this. Make sure you're drawing on the same layer. If you can use multiple layers if you don't wanna mess up. Like if I wanted to do my shelves in one layer, design or decor on a different layer, that's fine. Just make sure your window layer is locked. Don't draw on that. But yeah, so let me go to the next part of this. So here's my drawing that I made of my setting. So I have my room in one layer, which I initially actually had a bunch of layers because I wanted certain things in the background. So you'll notice that these curtains are in front of the rod. Well, I drew them in separate layers and then organized them the way I wanted. Same with the shelves, the things in the shelves. And then once I moved them in the order I wanted, then I do right click and then merge down. So I merged all my drawings into one single layer. My window is still separate, and then my background I went ahead and painted a different color, the color I wanted the walls, pretty much. So we're going to move on to the animation portion. Because we're doing keyframe animation, this part's pretty easy. What I will say is we need to unlock this background because we're going to be merging the window with the background. So we're going to click on window, which is on top, right click, merge down. So now our background and window are together, and so we have our room and our background and window. So we're going to turn these two off, and we're going to make a new layer, and we're going to put this layer at the very, very bottom. And this is going to be our window scene. So it's going to be outside. So I'm going to name it outside. Just so that I have my layers named. And then because my outdoor scene, so this can be anything you want. Depends, what do you want to see outside the window? Is it daytime? Is it nighttime? Is the sun setting? So I'm going to be doing a simple daytime with clouds moving. So I'm going to click my paint bucket, and I already have the blue that I want right here. Just make the background blue. And since I want my clouds to be white, I'm going to switch to white, click this, and then I want the little fuzzy texture. So here are my clouds. And I'm just gonna add a slight shadow. Alright, so here are my clouds, and I'm not going to do anything else because I only want the clouds to be moving, and I'll show you if you want to add like a tree or something, that's going to be on a separate layer. So we're going to turn on our background, just the background, and we're going to select that, and we're switching to the magic wand tool, which is the fourth from the top. It might be hiding behind one of these, so right click, switch to the magic wand tool, and you want to select inside the window like this. Once you select inside, we're going to create a layer mask. So this button down here, the one next to the effects, we're going to click the layer mask, and that creates a mask. Ooh, that's the wrong side. Okay, Command Z. My mistake, I think it's the outside. Let's try that. the outside of the room. So Command Z to undo. Let's try it again. Yep, that's exactly what we want. So we want the window itself to be masked, meaning like it's a cutout, but it's non-destructive, which is why this is here. If we wanted to get rid of the mask, we just delete it. But I'm not gonna do that. So here in the outside my clouds, now what I can do is, if I select that, if I click the move tool, oops, okay, so that's gonna happen, and so this background, we're gonna lock it again. So I don't wanna move it, I wanna move the outside. So now I can move this, and of course I'm not gonna start there, I would start here, and I would move this, and it looks like clouds are moving. So that's pretty cool. Okay, Command Z to lock it back in. Okay, so now that we have that masked, we're going to switch to our different workspace. So this box right here at the top, we're going to switch to motion, or you can go to Window, Workspace, switch to motion here. That's going to give you this timeline. If you don't see the timeline, you're going to go to Window, Workspace, and you're going to reset. Now, the last time we did an animation in Photoshop, we did a frame by frame, but this one we're going to do a video timeline. So we're going to create a video timeline, and you'll notice that it gives me 3 different tracks because I have 3 different layers. So it does a track for every layer. So we know that the room, and this is 5, is it 5 seconds or 5? Yeah, this is 5 seconds, that's fine. So we'll leave it at 5. If I play this, nothing's gonna happen. So if I play it, it's still, nothing's happening. What we want to do is we want to animate the clouds moving. So we're gonna start from the beginning, and we're going to, I'm gonna zoom in a bit. This bottom bar right here makes it so you can zoom in and out. This one moves the track left to right. These are giving you frames, so you have 5 frames, 10 frames, 15 frames, and so on. And once it gets to 30, that's 1 second. So we are at 30 frames per second, which you can see right here, the bottom, 30 frames per second. Animation is, we usually do a little less, not necessarily 30 frames per second. So I'm actually going to change that. So click here in your little options bar. We're going to do set timeline frame rate, and we're going to set it to 12. Or should we do 15? Let's do 15. So we're going to half that. Click OK. Alright, it's still 5 seconds. But now instead of at 30, it goes to 15 equals 1 second. Okay, so we're going to open this outside layer right here. Notice how we got more. I can move this up too, like that, so if you wanted more space. So starting at the beginning. So the thing that we are animating is the where it's positioned. So I want to start this right here. So because we're messing with the position, we're going to click this little clock stopwatch. Click that. That adds 1 keyframe. This little diamond right here, that's a keyframe. So what keyframes do is you are telling it that is where you want the animation to start. Now wherever, let's say at 1 second right here, I want it to move all the way to the end, which is right here. You'll notice it added a second keyframe by itself because I moved it. Now I can move this keyframe wherever I want, but I want it at 1 second. So now if I go back and I play it, now you have movement. Because you told the track right here, I have a starting position and an end position. So what it does is in between, it fills in the gaps for you to get to that second spot. So those are keyframes. You tell it where you want it to start, where you want it to end. Now let's say in the middle, maybe you don't want it there. Maybe you want it a little bit more to the left, right here. You can do that, and it adds its own keyframe right here. And you can also adjust that. And you can also delete keyframes just by simply clicking delete. So that's basically how you're going to animate this. Now, because it's 5 seconds, I can simply just put this all the way to the end so that it takes its time getting to the end. And that's it. That's the animation. Now, me personally, I don't think clouds move that fast, so I can just move it to, and it doesn't have to be just side to side. I can nudge it down, like maybe I really want it to end here because it looks nice. So now it's actually moving at an angle, and you can have it tilt down and move back up however you want. And then maybe the starting right here, I can click on it as long as my time, this little playhead here, if it's lined up with your keyframe, when you move it, whoops, that's the guide. When you move it, it adjusts that keyframe. So now it's starting there. And it's going slower. So you have that animated. Now we're gonna add like a tree. It doesn't have to even be a full tree. We're gonna add a tree, and this part's just as easy. So we're gonna add, we're still have outside selected. We're gonna add a new layer. We're gonna label it tree. If you would like this to be a different thing, totally fine, not a big deal. And this tree, you'll notice it's already there. It created its own timeline here, or own track actually. The whole thing is a timeline. So now we go back here. I'm going to grab the green that I want, and I'm going to draw probably just the top of the tree. Let's see how this looks. Can't see it, so maybe I need to put it up here. Oh, I'm in the eraser tool, that's why. Let's see what these have. Okay, that's fine. So notice how it's going out. That's because I moved the position. I actually should have kept it back here. See, so now even if I go outside of the window, it won't track it out there. So maybe I just want a portion of a tree. Okay. And now, let's see, does it stay? Yep, it stays the whole time. So, and that's because we didn't add keyframes or anything, it's just still, completely still. So now when I play it back, tree stays there. Yep. And now I can turn on the room. Let me move this down. Let me hide that. And when we play it, there you go. So there's your animation, and I am still missing, so not missing, but because I the window got, I made a mask, it deleted the outline, so I'm gonna actually make another outline. So window frame, and I want my window frame black, and I want it behind the curtain, so I'm actually gonna move this behind where it says room. And ooh, I'm seeing that it's doing all sorts of weird things on the bottom here, so let me move this up. So this window frame, because I had my playhead here, it created it after. I can just move it like that, not a big deal. And then my brush, move it back here. and it needs to be way smaller. There. Okay, so now I can redraw my window frame. So I'm going to hold shift so that I draw straight lines. And I only need to draw the top and bottom because you can't see the other ones. So save that. And there you go. I have a completed window animation using only keyframes. So we're going to export this as a GIF or GIF. So file, export, save for web. When you do a GIF, it's always save for web. This part takes a bit. Make sure you save before you export in case it crashes. That has happened before. Okay, don't worry if it's getting cut off. It's not a big deal. So that's a GIF. Click save. And if you haven't named it already, this is where you can name it. And then make sure that it is in the correct folder. Put mine here. And I'll just save. And it is exporting as a GIF. Once you have that GIF, that is what you're going to submit.